Hello, my name is Shawn Iriel. I'd like to share with you today a testimony that happened in my life. On August 27, 1997, I was an electrician. I was working on parking lot lights this day. We went into work at 7 a.m. Me and my helper, I didn't need the time. I could have stayed home. Matter of fact, something told me to stay home that day, but I went in because my helper needed some hours, and so we went to work. And only had one job to do. And so as we were on the job, I was working on the parking lot lights, and my helper was throwing the parts up to me. And the last piece I needed was a globe, and he threw it up, but it went behind him, away from me, and he about dropped it. And I said, "Well, I'll come down off this ladder." And we was on an A-frame ladder. I was, and you could come up both sides, and the middle part went straight up like an extension ladder. And that's where I was at, on the straight up part. And so he said, "I'll just bring it up to you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. It's just a simple um, accident that happened that day." Well, he went to come up the other side of the ladder, and as he did, one of the legs went into the ground, and it tipped over, and it threw me off the top. I went through some azalea bushes, landed on my head in the tree stump part. It knocked me unconscious, and whenever I woke up, I felt like I got rolled down a hill in a barrel. Everything was spinning. Everything was just, crazy. And I couldn't see. I was trying to stand up, and I couldn't. I kept hearing my neck crunching. Something was going on there. And I told my helper, I said, "Brian," man, I feel like I want to see the sky again. I don't know why, but I said, I want to see the sky again. Roll me over so I can see." And Brian's like, "I'm not touching you, Shawn." And I said, "Brian," I feel like I'm dying. I want to see the sky again." And Brian's walking around me. I couldn't see him. I was pitch black. And I could hear him walking around me, and he's talking to me. He says, "Shawn," he says, "you got blood all over the ground. I'm not touching you." And I said, "Only thing I know to do, man, is I got to ask God to forgive me." And I said a simple prayer. I said, "Lord, if there's a heaven and a hell out here, come in my life to save me." And at that very moment, I was standing up, and I seen Yeshua walking towards me. He was about an inch tall, real far away from me. And now if it would have been anybody else, like Buddha or Muhammad or somebody like that, then I'd be serving him right now, because that would have been the God that came to me. But no other God that came to me but except Yeshua, Jesus. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching him come towards me. I'm talking to my helper. He's standing behind me, but I can't see him. And I'm looking at everything else out around me. Everything's white and beautiful grass, box hedges, the dimensions of the pathway we were on. I knew the dimensions of the brick, and I didn't even have to ask him. I already knew them. They were 18 inches long by 6 inches thick by 6 inches wide depth. And it was 20 feet wide, bronze pathway. The bronze pathway was so shiny, transparent, you could see through it into the brick. That's how amazing this is. And as Yeshua is coming towards me, I'm telling my helper, I said, "Brian, I see Jesus." And Brian's like, "Shawn, quit talking like that." And I said, "No, man," I said, "I see Yeshua. He's coming for me." And he said, like, "Shawn," he said, "just hold on. The ambulance is on its way." And I said, "No, man," I said, "he's standing here beside me." I said, "It's my time to go." I said, "Tell my wife and kids I love them, and I love you too. I'll see you when you get here." I died. I walked with Christ, talked to him. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, he is so beautiful. I was looking at my feet, and my feet just pretty. And I had this beautiful little white robe on. And I was looking at my hand. I could see it, but I could see through my hand. And I was flipping it back and forth like this the whole time, and I was going like this. And I was like, man, it looked like like you'd see a movie or something with a ghost, and you see a figure, but you could see through that figure, And so as we're walking, I'm amazed. I'm looking at my hand, and I look at Christ. I'm looking at his feet. His feet look like lightning cracking across a dark sky at night. He had this beautiful white robe on. It shimmered. It was like glitter or something all over it. And I came to the top of his knees about how tall I was to him in this vision here. And I was holding hands with him with my left hand as we were walking away, and I was looking up at him, and I could see this beautiful beard he had. It was jet black. Hair was jet black. It came down about right here past his collarbones, and it was curly, like you used to put curls in a curling iron. And his beard hung off his face about 3 inches, and it was curly. He had 7 rows of curls coming off his face, and to the tip of his nose I could see, but from there up into his eyes and his head I couldn't see. It was like looking into the sun, and I was just like this here, and he was smiling at me because he knew I was trying to see his eyes and I couldn't. When he spoke to me, he sounded like 1,000 thunderstorms at one time. Every word he said to me, it was like somebody was putting drops of honey on my tongue. I could taste the words that came out of his mouth. But as we're walking away, I'm looking at my hand, I'm looking at him, I'm just amazed, and I'm like, Lord, I said, what about my wife and kids? Didn't answer me at that time. And as we're continuing to walk away, the second time, I asked him, and that's when he stopped and he spoke to me. He says, he says, Shawn, he said, do you desire to go back? And I said, yeah, I reckon. I said, I want to take care of my family. Before, we were having issues and problems and stuff with, most marriages have issues. But I had a strong desire to want to take care of my family. And so he said, well, he said, if you go back, and he said, no doctor in this world will heal you. You'll be a cripple the rest of your life. And I said, Lord, if anybody can heal me, you can. I said, would you allow me to go back and take care of them? And Yeshua says, Shawn, you must do 2 things out of your life for me, and I'll heal you. I said, whatever you will, Lord, I'll do it. And he said, so be it. He said, you must give testimony that I'm alive, and you must live your life for me. And so I said, whatever you will, Lord. So we turned around, went back to my body. I could see my body laying on the ground. The paramedics, one was on each side of me. My boss man, Brad, was there on his knees looking at me, helping the paramedics. My helper was standing there, the owner of the apartments across the street. We was at the Richland Fashion Mall here in Columbia, South Carolina. And the owners and stuff were there. I had some people at the apartment complex that was across the street was over there looking at me and stuff. And so, excuse me, I got a little sinus thing going on today. But as I'm sitting there and I'm looking at what's going on, the paramedics are working on me. They get me cut out of this tree stump, and they put me on a stretcher. And right when they went to stick me in the back of the ambulance, my light flashed. I was at Richmond Memorial Hospital, and these doctors are bringing in these big old machines that look like the size of a refrigerator, and they're hooking me up to these machines. And so when I'm watching all this that's going on, Christ, he looks down at me, and it was like, at this time, it was like I was floating in the air, and I was looking down at my body from an angle, not standing directly over it, but off from it. And he asked me, he said, Shawn, you ready to go back? And I said, yeah, I reckon. I didn't know. And so he picks me up like a little 3-year-old baby, and he walks over to my body and lays me back in my body. And I woke up, I was on life support machines. They were waiting on my mom and my brothers to come down from Michigan to cut support off on me. I have one brother that lived here, and he was standing over me, over my body at this time, and looking down into my face. And I woke up, and I opened up one eye, and him and my wife was in the room with me, and she ran out the room to get the nurses and stuff, and my brother, he passes out. So I'm thinking, hey, he's a fireman, he can handle that, but I reckon that is a shock. I reckon whenever they tell you you're dead and you're on life support, it's a big difference. The machines that I was hooked up to, they said the doctors come in and they told me, they said I was dead an hour and 10 minutes on arrival. I have some people say, well, I'm in the medical field and I can't believe it, that you were died and you this and that. And I'm like, well, I said, are you a Christian? They, oh yeah. I'm like, well, I mean, you mean to tell me that you can believe that Jesus can raise Lazarus from the dead 4 days late, but yet can't heal a man and bring him from the dead an hour and 10 minutes? Come on, people. All right, so anyway, I stayed in what they call a double ICU room. I was in a coma, probably self-induced coma, because I couldn't handle what all happened to my body. They put me in a regular ICU room I stayed in a double ICU room for 2 months. And I went into a regular ICU room for a month. And then I went into a private room. And about a 30 days later, I had these doctors starting to come in and see me. And they start telling me what all was going on with me and things that's happened to me and stuff. And doctor tells me, he says, Shawn, he said, you're going to be a quadriplegic the rest of your life. And I'm like, what is that? I was ignorant. I didn't know what a quadriplegic was. So he tells me, I'm not going to move anything from the neck down. I'm just going to be a vegetable, and that's my lot in life. And I told him, I said, no. I said, I seen the Lord. And I said, he said he's going to heal me. I'm going to walk out of this hospital. So we kind of argued back and forth about walking again. And he's like, no, you're not, And so I finally got through arguing. I was like, just tell me what happened to me. What's going on? So what had happened is he said that I fell off a ladder, which I knew that. And he said I fell into a tree stump head first. And I fell 12 feet. And I know I was 12 feet up. But so I fell only 12 feet head first, went through these azalea bushes, knocked me unconscious. The paramedics had to cut the tree branches off the stump to get me out of it. What had happened is I had a tree branch size of a pencil hit me in my teeth and went through my lower gum down in here, right down in there. I had one that hit me in the right cheek up in here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it hit me in the cheek. I had one that hit me in the eyebrow. See the scar right there, and came out my forehead. I had a couple that went through the top of my head over here, which damaged my brain. This big long scar is from cancer that got me about 2 years ago or something. I'll share that testimony with you. I got about 10 testimonies I want to share. This is number one, and then the rest will follow. But they'll be a lot shorter than this. This is the longest one I've got. But I had 3 that went to the top of my head, which damaged my brain. The doctor said that I have so much brain trauma and damage that I'm not going to walk right. I'm never going to walk again. I'm not going to even talk right, is what he said. So he says, you broke your neck. I crushed my 3, 4, and 5 vertebrae in my neck, damaged my spinal cord, which they had to operate on me a couple months later. After I got out of the hospital, about a year later, they operated on my neck, and they took the vertebrae out the back of my neck. I have the front part, but the back of it is a hole in there. It's just I can't look straight up because it pushes in on my spinal cord and messes my body up. But I cracked my sternum, broke both collarbones, tore out both my rotor cups, crushed all the bones in my left arm down through here. My arm folded up like an accordion, and I can't use my hand, either. But I mean that I can get that. I mean that means a lot just to move my hand like that. It's crazy. But my hand was down into my forearm where my elbow is at, and they had to pull it out of my arm. I had 4 surgeries on my arm to make it look like an arm again. What it is, they put these little Chinese finger lock things on my fingers, and I'm laying there in the bed, and I'm kind of skipping fast forward through. I got to come back to everything. But they started putting these little Chinese finger locks on my fingers, and I'm laying in the bed, and the only thing I can do is move my eyes. I can't do nothing else. And so I'm looking at this guy beside me, and he's got my arm up in the air like this, and he puts a strap like a belt around my elbow, and it's got this rod on it. And he's like, he comes in with his 5-pound weight, and he says, man, he says, I'm sorry, but I got to do this. He puts the weight up under my elbow and lets go of it, and it slides down this rod about 2 foot long, and it hits the end, and oh man, it set me in another world. I passed out. Whenever I came to, he comes back in the room a little while later, does the same thing. He did this 4 times, and then the 5th time he comes in the room, he grabs my hand and takes my elbow and he starts twisting it and pulling it, my hand back up out of my elbow. Well, yeah, and like I said, I'm passed out again, and whenever I wake up, I got a cast on my arm. But so I'm getting back to my doctor. So when I'm talking to them, they said you broke your neck, you cracked your sternum, broke both collarbones, tried both rotor cuffs, done all this damage to my arm. Crushed my T7 in my back, damaged the spinal cord there. He said anything from the neck down where I damaged spinal cord controls everything in your body. You're going to be a quadriplegic. And he said where I broke my back controls everything from the waist down. He said, you know, even if you got to where you got movement in your arms, you'll never walk again because you damaged your spinal cord there. I crushed I broke my L4 and L5 and where my hips are at. Popped my L5 disc out. And I have issues with that and the middle part of my back, even to this day. And this has been 27 years later. Why it took me so long, I don't know. I was trying to write a book, trying to get all this published into a book, but it was costly, and I couldn't seem to get the money to do it. But anyhow, all these things that was going on with me, and he said that this is the way I was going to be the rest of my life, and I kept arguing with him, telling him no, I was going to walk again. So as time went by, I'd had them put my hands on pillows, and I'd look and concentrate on my hand just to pick it up and move it, just to twitch that finger like that. Oh, it felt like, you know, somebody come in with a bucket of water and just dumped on me. Yeah, that's how bad I sweated to move one finger. And so I got where I could move that. I was excited, showed the nurses and stuff, and then later on, as time went on, a couple months later, I get where I can move my arm, but it's real slow. It's like I'm in slow motion, and I can do the remote for the TV in front of me. But that was the only thing that could move. I couldn't lean up, couldn't do nothing, couldn't do nothing but move that arm. As time went along, I'm sitting in there and I'm watching NASCAR or something. I think that's what it was. I see the sheet move on my bed, and I thought it was my brother snuck in the room and was messing with me. And I'm like, Sam, he said, are you there? And I'm talking to him, and there's nobody in the room with me answering. So I finally realized, I said, man, that's my toe moving. So I pulled the sheet back, and I said, okay, God. I said, let's see what we can do. And my toe twitched on its own. Oh, man, it felt so good. I knew, I cried like a baby. I knew I was going to have that chance of walking again. So I called my nurses in. I told them about it. I showed them what I can do. I got them to bring the therapist up there the next day, and what I was going to do is I was going to surprise my wife. I was, in my mind, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk, and I'm going to surprise her, you know, just when she comes in one day, I'm going to get up and walk for her, you know. And, well, they came in the next day or so. They stood me up beside my bed, and I felt like 1,000 thunderstorms at one, 1,000 needles at one time, like I was standing on, my nerves were firing. And, oh, it hurt, but it felt so good that, you know, I was crying because, hey, man, I got a chance of walking again. So I could take a baby step with my right leg. My left leg was dead. It was like being ripped in half. My left side was dead. Didn't do nothing. So I barely could move with my right. It was like my arm. It was real slow. Barely could move. But it was a start. And so when I took that baby step, I'm looking down. I can't move my head. Like I said, I can't do none of that. I got a nurse on both sides of me, and they're helping me walk. And I'm looking down, and I seen the door open up. And I look up, and as my wife and her aunt was coming in, and they seen me taking my first steps. And that was a wonderful day. We all were crying. But I was talking to my nurses, and my doctors come in a couple days later or something like that, and they told me, you know, oh, I heard you got up, and, you know. And I said, yeah, I told you I'm going to walk out of this hospital. And he said, okay. He says, well, he says, I tell you what, he said, if you can walk out here to the nurse's station, go around it and come back, he said, we'll let you go home. Oh, that was it. That was my goal. And so I got therapy people to come up and help me, and we walked every day. And then I finally got to that point, and so he's like, okay, well, we'll let you go home. Well, I didn't come home. He sent me to Health South for rehabilitation. And so I was over there, and I had to learn to walk, which they wanted me to stay in a wheelchair. They wouldn't allow me to get up and walk. But I'd get in my room, and I'd get up and walk. And when the doctors were gone home in the evening, I'd go in the hallway and walk. But the nurses, you know, they'd get on me because I wasn't supposed to be out there. And so the doctors found out, and they said, well, we can't keep you in a wheelchair. We'll let you walk, but you got to have nurses with you. You can't do it on your own. I said, okay, just in case I fell, because I still didn't have surgery at this time on my neck and stuff, and my back, but my face, they couldn't do surgery on me at the time that I was there because of my neck surgery, so it just had to heal like it was on its own. But which, thank God, it looks better than it. I know what you're saying. There's something wrong with your face still, but I'm doing well. And let's see, I don't want to forget nothing because I usually always forget things. So as time progressed and my arm was healed, like I said, I got it in a cast at that time. So they wanted to do surgery on me, and so I went in, and they were doing surgery on my arm this one time, and they said that my arm wasn't right when they put the cast on it to begin with, so they had to re-break it and put it back in another cast. It didn't heal right, so that was twice now. So the third time, the guy comes in, he says, hey, we got to do another surgery, we're going to have to re-break everything, and we're going to put steel rods in you. And so I was like, okay, we'll do that. So when they was doing surgery, that one went fine. The fourth time, they said that the steel rods, my body was rejecting the rods, and it was coming back, pushing back up through my thumb. The guy's like, well, we got to do surgery. We're going to take those rods out, put new ones in. Okay, so when I'm laying there on the bed this time, I wake up in the middle of surgery, and I'm looking at the doctor, and looks like he's got a D-walk drill, and he's got my hand all jacked up and at an angle, and he's screwing that rod right on down. I'm watching him just screw it right on down in my arm, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm talking to him, and and they're like, man, you're supposed to be asleep, but I can't feel nothing, from breaking my neck and stuff. And so anyway, I'm sitting there talking to them. They put me back to sleep. They finish up the job and everything. That was the fourth surgery. I went to see him a time after that when I was out of the hospital. I stayed in the hospital for about 9 months total at Health South. At Richmond Memorial, and then I was at Health South for a couple more months. But anyway, I was at home when this had happened, and the previous times I was in the hospital, but this time I was outside. And then I had to have my neck surgery, so I had to go to Lexington County Hospital here in Columbia, and I had a doctor named William Rambo that worked on my neck, wonderful guy. And I've heard through the nurses and stuff at the hospitals, hey, this is the guy you want if you ever going to have it. And luckily, I never asked for him, but thank God he was there, and he was my doctor. But he came in, and he'd fixed me up, and I'm good to go, man. And even though I got some issues and stuff going on now, but I just wanted to share that testimony with you, and I tried to rush through it real quick because I didn't want to make it a 45-minute video. I don't know how long YouTube's got videos for, but I hope to post it. And like I said, this is number 1 out of probably 10. I got a lot of other testimonies that I want to share with people that God has done for me and done in my life and my family's life and blessed us all. But I think that's all I got. And I want to thank you for watching this video. God bless.